guys, welcome back to my channel. In today's video I'm going to be showing you this design I first sketched out on paper, and then I went and took a picture of it in the Procreate app, and then I swiped on my layer to lock it so I won't accidentally draw on it. Then I added a layer above that where I will be lettering on. And now I'm going ahead and grabbing the brush I want to use. I'm using my brush Jamie. I will have a link to my brushes down below in the description. And I'm breaking off my color palette. I actually am going to also have this color palette for you guys free that I created. So there will be a link to that as well if you want to download it. A bunch of fun colors in there. I've been playing with these colors for my feed. And now I'm just going over the sketch on the layer above and writing out the words. And I'm just kind of fast forwarding through this part because basically I am just kind of going over the shape with my natural handwriting, or how I would actually write these out. Nothing too fancy for this design, and I'm occasionally shutting off the background to see how it looks, and I'm actually swiping and unlocking it and dropping the opacity. That way it's not as distracting. And at that point I realized I wanted to move the R and the E a little bit closer to the A. I just felt like it was too spread out compared to U, so I just moved the R to the left and then the E to the left a little bit. And now I am turning back on the background layer to continue with the next line. I added a layer to do the next line. It's up to you if you want to do that or not. At the end, I combined my layers together, but I did put them separately, or I tried to, and then at one point I realized that I actually didn't, but that's okay. And I'm just going over and kind of staggering the colors that I'm using so I don't have them touching. I don't like when like the green and the green are right next to each other, for example, so I try to stagger them, which takes a lot of thinking and planning out where each color will go. And then I'm grabbing the selection tool at the top, which is that little S thing with the arrow, and moving over the G and continuing with that line and shutting the background off to make sure it's looking all right. And again with that selection tool, and realized I was on the wrong layer and moved up that whole layer which said UR. And now I'm grabbing the other layer that had so and moving it to the left just a tiny bit. I do a lot with that selection tool, and you want to select on freehand when you're using it. Anyway, back to the lettering. So now I am doing the next line, which is going to say so, but with a bunch of smiley faces. So I was going to do the S yellow, and then I changed it and decided to just start with the faces first, and then I would go back at the end and do the S. So I'm going ahead and coloring in each of the smileys, and I really like this brush because it gives a nice texture. You could probably see it's not like fully filled in, and you can see some of the background popping through, which I really love. And I'm just kind of doing these loosely, nothing too perfect. They're like not perfect circles, which I like. And then I'm going back and doing the S at the end because I wanted to figure out what color I wanted to do it in. And that was the color that made the most sense there. After I finished the smileys, shutting off the background again and seeing what I need to move, and the canvas kind of looked uncentered, and it made more sense to move the canvas rather than move the words, because sometimes when you move your words around or your layers, things get a little bit blurry and lose their texture. So I figured I would just do the canvas instead, which by the way was up at the wrench, and you go to canvas, crop and resize, and you can move things around. And now I'm just back at that last line and figuring out my colors to make it look nice. And of course I drew on the wrong layer. I wanted to change that darker green smiley to the lighter green because I realized I hadn't really used the lighter green recently. So that's why I changed the colors a tiny bit and finished up that line. Shut off the background again. You'll see I do that a lot because it's a lot better to turn it off to see how it's looking. And now at this point I pinched those layers together to get them all in one layer and then I could move around each section still with that selection tool, but everything at that point was pinched together. And at this point I do a lot of rearranging. I like to just make sure the letters are spaced evenly. Some aren't closer together than others, and that there's enough space between each line. So you'll see me with that selection tool again. I use that quite a lot. It's a really useful tool. And then I grab the arrow to move it up, and I just continue doing that until everything looks right, which it can take a bit to get everything looking exactly how I want it. So you'll see me moving things around. And I did fast forward this part, but it still seems like a lot. And now at this point I decided to center my design on the canvas. If you grab the arrow, tap on snapping at the bottom left and turn snapping on, make sure it's turned to blue, and then when you use that arrow and move your layer, it will show you lines showing you that it is in the center or not. So that's a useful little tip, and a little more rearranging with that Y, and then I think that was the end of moving things around finally. And at this point, it was time for me to erase away the eyes and the mouths of the smiley faces. First, I put the background on one more time and turned it back off. I don't even know why I did that, but I did. And I grabbed the eraser and changed it to the Jamie brush. Instead of the normal monoline that I normally use, I picked the Jamie brush. That way I could keep that nice texture, and I used that for the eraser to get rid of the eyes, or to create the eyes, I should say. So at that point, I started going through on each smiley face, and they all look a little bit different, which was fun. And then I decided to move this up a little bit to make room to put my little @ and at this point I realized it was time to add the background, so I added a layer above my text layer, or layer that I wrote "You Are Doing So Amazing" on. Then I moved it below that layer, dragged in one of the darker colors, and then I turned it to the more black looking color. And then I did something very fun. I added a little bit of texture. First, I realized I had a little bit of green or yellow drawn on there accidentally, so I just went in and erased that. Did some more rearranging. But now let me show you what I did with the texture. So I added a layer above that black background, grabbed the gray, grabbed a gray color, like a medium gray. And then I have texture brushes, so I'm using the Carla one. The link will be down below for the texture pack as well. I have a bunch of textures in there, but someone commented saying this one looked like velvet, and that is so true. And yeah, so from there you tap on the little N on that layer, and you can change your blending mode. I put it on color burn and drop the opacity, and it just gives it a little bit of texture, nothing too crazy, but it just adds a little something to the background. So that is what I did for that. But again, the link will be in the description if you want to try out a bunch of the different options. Sometimes I color the words in as well, but I just did the background for this, and I'm going to have a reel up showing you how I created a stamp with my little ad. So it is either up when you're seeing this or it will be up shortly, so be on the lookout for that. So you basically just create it and then you just stamp instead of having to write this out or like copy it from a different layer every time, which is what I was doing for so long. So it's way easier. I just have it there and then I can move it quickly instead of writing out the whole thing or copying and pasting or whatever. It's just there, and you could even do it with a font, which I will show you guys that as well on a reel. But yeah, so that is how I did this stamp, and I would love if you check out my reels. I have some other fun ones and I'll be posting some more. I took a little break, but I am getting back into it. So yeah, be on the lookout if you want to learn how to do that. And that is pretty much it for this little lettering with me. I will leave a link in the description below, like I said, for the brushes. The brush I used here was Jamie, and I'll also have the textures, which I used the brush for my texture pack called Carla. There's a bunch of different textures in there, but the one I used today was Carla, and like I said, I will leave the link to both the textures and the lettering brushes and all my brush packs and, Procreate tools down below. Don't forget to download my color palette too. I want to see what you guys come up with it, and I'll see you guys in the next one. If you could give it a thumbs up, that would be super helpful, and hit that subscribe button. I'll see you guys in the next one. Bye!